Okay, so usually after about 30 minutes, that little recording sign up there shuts off automatically. If I don't catch it, because somebody just say it stopped recording so I can start it back up. All right, so today we're going to simplify algebraic expressions. Okay. So to do that, you have to know the terminology that's usually used. And we're going to start with a term. Okay. So a term is either a number or variable or a multiplication of the two that's separated by the plus or minus signs. So a term is a number or product of a number and variable separated by plus or minus signs. All right, so for an example, if you have just x, that would just be one term because it's not separated by anything, so it's just one term. Or let's say if you had x plus 3, that would be two terms. Or what if you had 7x plus 3y plus 2z plus 5. That would just be four terms. Or better yet, make it minus 5, just to kind of mix it up a little bit. Okay, might as well have that, both of those there. So you have 1, 2, 3 terms. Okay. Is there any questions on that so far? Yes.
I thought you said 4 terms.
Oh, 4 terms. Thank you. Okay. Now, each one of those terms, whatever number is in front of the variable, that's called your coefficient. Okay, so numerical coefficient or just coefficient by itself. Okay, so for example, if you had 3x, then your coefficient is just a 3. But if you had something like negative x, then your coefficient will be negative 1. Because that's the same as just saying negative 1x. Okay. But if you had, let's say, just y. If you had just y, then your coefficient is just 1. That's the same as just having 1 times y. Just like this is the same as having negative 1 times z. I mean negative 1 times x. So your coefficient is 1. Okay, so any numbers that's multiplied by your variable, they'll just call it the coefficient. Okay, so any questions on that one? All right. Anyone still writing? Okay. Now using that, now we're going to look into combining like terms. Okay. Now if you have two terms that both have x values or x variables, or both have y variables or z variables, as long as the variables are exactly the same, you can just add or subtract their coefficients. Oh. Thought I hit it already. Thank you. All right. So the variables must be exactly alike. To combine terms. Okay, that means the variables and their exponents have to be exactly alike. Okay, so for example, if you had, let's say if you wanted to simplify the expression, say 2x plus 3x plus 5 plus 2. Okay. Since both of these have just regular x variables, you can just add them together. Okay, so since we know 2 plus 3 equals 5, then 2x plus 3x is just 5x. So it's the exact same thing, you're just adding with the variable at the end. Okay, so that means if you have 2x plus 3x plus 5 plus 2, you can combine these two. And since these are just regular numbers, you can combine those two. Okay, so we know our 2x plus 3x gives us our 5x, and 5 plus 2 gives us our 7. All right, so any questions on that one? All right. Let's say if we have the example that we wanted to simplify. Let's say 3xy plus 2x plus 3y plus 7xy. Uh-oh, move that a little bit. Can everyone see the numbers okay, or for some reason it looks like it's a little faded? All right. Okay, so for this one, the only two out of all of those terms that can actually combine would be these two. Yep, so they will combine to equal 10xy. Because remember, it has to be exactly the same. So if one has xy, the only one you can combine it with is another one that has exactly xy. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
No, okay. So you have 3xy plus 2x, plus 3y plus 7xy. You can only combine those two. Okay. Which gives us 3xy. Let me kind of make a little side note here. 3xy plus 7xy equals 10. I swear I go through pencil leads like crazy. There we go. Equals 10xy. So that gives us 10xy plus 2x and 3y. You don't have the same variable, so you can't combine those. So they really just stay the same. 2x plus 3y. Okay, so that would be your simplified answer for that one. All right. Does that make sense?
So in the homework, when I was
Yes.
looking at it,
Mm-hmm.
that's going to be the answer. It's not going to be solving it. It's just going to be simplified.
Yep, just
So
simplify it.
it'll say in the test the same thing, just simplify.
Oh yeah, yep, it'll say simplify, and by simplifying, they just mean if you can combine some things, combine them. If you can't, then you just leave it. All right. Okay. Any other questions? All right. Nope, anyone's still writing? All right. Okay, so let's say, for example, if you want to simplify 4b plus 8 plus, better yet, make that a minus. Kind of mix it up a little bit. Minus 7b plus 9. All right, so just like you would with the x, you can only combine the terms with b since they are the same. So let's have 4b plus 8 minus 7b plus 9. You can only combine those two as far as variables. Now, since the 8 and the 9 are just plain numbers, you can combine those also. Okay, so just a little side note. 4b minus 7b is negative 3b. And 8 plus 9, 17. That b looks a little too much like a 6, so let me clean that up a little bit. There we go. So that means you would have negative 3b plus 17. All right, so any questions on that one? Yes.
So for, like, why
Oh,
would
thank
you
you.
subtract the two instead of add them? Because there's an addition and a subtraction sign between both of them.
You mean for the 4b and 7b?
Yes.
Oh, if you added them together, it would still come out to be negative because you have a negative number being added to a positive number, but the negative number is larger.
Oh, right, okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? All right. What if we wanted to identify the coefficient of 5r squared. What would the coefficient be? Yep, just a 5. Figured I'd throw that one in there to see if you forgot. Yep, so it's just the number next to the variables. That is literally the only way to describe it. Okay, so what if we wanted to simplify? Say 7x squared plus 5x plus 6x squared plus 7x. We'll bring that up a little bit. Okay. Remember, they have to be exactly the same to combine them. Even though all 4 of them have an x, you can't combine an x term with an x squared term. Just like you can combine an x squared to an x to the 3rd term. Okay, so 7x squared plus 5x plus 6x squared plus 7x. The only 2 you can combine are those, because they're both x squared, and those 2 because they're both x. Okay. So a little side note, 7x squared plus 6x squared is just 13x squared. And 5x and 7x, yep, is 12x. So this just gets simplified to 13x squared plus 12x.